We are losing our traditional orchards at a drastic rate. Since about the 1950s, we've lost around 60% of our traditional orchards, and in some parts of the country, such as Kent and Devon, that figure's nearer to 90%. Traditional orchards are in decline for a range of reasons. Firstly, they're really poorly protected under planning regulations, and there's not a lot to stop somebody taking an orchard out and replacing it with a pony paddock or a garage. And also, the economics of fruit growing have changed now. They're being replaced by commercial orchards, and a traditional orchard like this just can't compete on that level. So without a use for the traditional orchard anymore, people just aren't going to look after them, and the traditional orchard will eventually be lost.
Well, Natural England have realised that we've had such major decline in these orchards that alongside the government they need to do something to help protect the orchards we've got and to help promote further orchards in the future. And what the National Trust have is many areas of orchards, both orchards that have been removed that could be restored and orchards like we're in now, which are orchards which are here and are still working and thriving. So basically the partnership works really well.
The National Trust is the lead partner on the Traditional Orchards Habitat Action Plan, and in 2008 we received a grant from Natural England which the National Trust have matched in order to deliver a project to restore and conserve traditional orchards across England. So we're working with about 26 National Trust properties and also with about 15 external organisations to do a whole load of a wide range of activities to help breathe new life into traditional orchards. So that might be very practical work, scrub clearance, pruning to restore an old orchard, and we're creating new ones as well. And on top of that, we're offering training workshops to give people the skills they need to manage their orchards way into the future. And we're also holding public events so that people can share in the enjoyment that comes from being in an orchard and learn about the wildlife and all they have to offer us. And we're conducting some wildlife surveys as well, so we know more about the types of animals that depend on these important habitats. Well, the orchard here at Shedbush Farm is one of the ones that are involved in our orchard project. So the first step really is to get the apples here identified. We want to find out what varieties are here.
Well, I've been looking around to try and identify some of these trees, some of which have been here for a long time, and they're really worth preserving. I've got that scrunchiness, but juicy bit of tannin sort of flavour afterwards. We've managed to put a name to some of them because they're good cider apples. Tremlitz Bitter, Yarlington Mill, Bulmer's Norman, and they're quite good. But this is one I'm really fascinated with because it's one I've never seen before. And I think it could be a local Dorset variety, so I'm really pleased to see it here.
We want to get the orchard back into shape, and that's going to take some pruning on some of the younger trees that have only recently been planted out, and some restoration on some of the older trees as well. The old press just over the way here has lain dormant for many, many years, and what we want to do is restore the press, get the fruit in the orchard used again, and that will mean that the orchard is loved and cared for in the future because there's a use for the apples.
This orchard is something that really has not really been neglected, but we've not had that much to do with it, and to actually be able to restore the cider press so that we can then produce an end product and use these apples is very exciting. And there's lots of local people and local volunteers and members of staff that are really chomping at the bit, ready to get going and picking some apples and seeing what happens.
Many of our National Trust properties use their orchard produce for juice, for cider, for jams and chutneys, and over at Killerton Estate in Devon they've been making their own cider there for a couple of years, and it's pretty good. The orchards are quite extensive, so we have lots and lots of volunteers coming along to help at harvest time, and they run working holidays there as well, so everyone can get really stuck in and involved in the whole process from picking through to actually making the cider.
We use all the profits ploughed back into our traditional orchard management, which are a really good ecosystem, and so it benefits an awful lot on the estate. It also helps us to produce things like chutney as well as cider, and with the bees that we have in the orchards we also produce honey, so all round it's rather good.
From a Killerton point of view, it'd be really nice to think, and I'm sure we will, have our orchards on a far more firm footing going forward. So basically our orchards will be established far better, we'll have a better record of what we've got here, fruit varieties, etc. And we'll be able to go forward confident that these orchards are going to be here for the long term. The other thing is to try and recreate some of those orchards that have been lost. So to get some of those new plantings back and to try and just inspire a bit more sort of fruit use and inspire a bit more orchard use amongst the general public would be a good thing as well.
It's really great if people can support, their local industries by buying local, going to farm shops and buying their apples there. So they're grown here in the UK, and they probably taste a lot better as well.
Oh, I think it's tremendously important because it's keeping these things going. A lot of the owners have given up and said, well, I don't make cider anymore, so what's the point of keeping the orchard going? And not looking after the guards on the trees, letting the sheep eat the trees, that sort of thing. So I think what the National Trust is doing by looking after them is great.
We're always looking for volunteers to help out at some of our properties. In the winter time, there's an awful lot of work going on around pruning and caring for the trees over the winter.
They're just great places to be, and I mean the wildlife really thrive in them as well.
They're just lovely additions to our landscapes. I mean, you drive through a landscape at this time of year where it's rich in orchards, and they just look fantastic. And I think that it would be sorry if we were to lose them.